scary. Hello and welcome. I am Sir Shudder. Before we begin, if you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe and hit the notifications icon to see when I've done another video. Today's video is going to be on the 13 most haunted locations in the UK. Without further ado, let's begin. The first location is Pendle Hill in Lancashire. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Since the notorious 1612 trials, the good people of East Lancashire have remained utterly cautious of the dreaded witches on Pendle Hill. The alleged witches were buried beneath the hill, having been hung at Lancaster Castle. The hill has since featured on multiple television shows, including a live broadcast from the Most Haunted crew. The ghosts said to haunt the castle are that of the 10 witches in total, all out for revenge, having been unjustly put to death by the terrified townsfolk of their time. Most famous among them is Alice Nutter, who was wealthier than her supernatural contemporaries, and chilled everyone with her silence during the trial. She was found guilty on the charge of murdering Henry Mitten by witchcraft. Current situation: Pendle Hill looms large and pretentious above the Lancashire countryside. Creepy feelings aside, it's a lovely place for a hike, and its summit boasts an astounding view. Number 2 is the Tower of London. We've all heard of the Tower of London. It's most famous for harbouring the crown jewels and housing prisoners for their final days before being trotted out to face public execution. So it's little wonder why it's thought to be haunted. Historical inmates include Thomas Cromwell, Sir Walter Raleigh, Guy Fawkes, the Cato Street conspirators, and the Cray twins. There are numerous spirits apparently wandering the halls of the Tower of London, but the most famous is that of Anne Boleyn, estranged wife of Henry XIII, who met her end on the block. She's often seen walking around various rooms after closing time, with her severed head tucked under her arm. Others have spotted her staring through the window of the room in which she was imprisoned. Current situation: the Tower of London is one of English capital's most hotly attended attractions. It's well worth a visit for a chance at spotting Anne's ghostly reflection in the world's biggest diamond. Number 3 is the ancient Ram Inn, Wootton-under-Edge, Gloucestershire. The ancient Ram Inn, built way back in the 12th century, is one of the most famous haunted sites in the UK. It pretty much ticks all the boxes on the spooky checklist. Not only was it built on an ancient pagan burial ground, but it also boasts over 20 regular spectres. It's now the UK epicentre of the ghost hunting world, with supernaturalists descending on the ground year in, year out. Amongst the many ghosts that patrol the rooms of the ancient Ram Inn and its creepy basement is a lost little girl, allegedly killed by her mother, a rogue priestess who can be heard wailing deep into the night. And perhaps worst of all, a very randy male sex spirit called an incubus, renowned for its pushing unsuspecting guests onto the bed. Current situation: the ancient Ram Inn is no longer a pub. It hosts events, paranormal investigations, and open days. Check the website for details. Number 4 is Bury Pomeroy Castle in Devon. The Tudor era castle of Bury Pomeroy, built all the way back in 1547, towers over the Devonshire countryside and is known to many as the haunted castle in the UK, well, the most haunted castle in the UK. Seeing as there are over 1,500 castles across the country, each with their own separate resident spectres, this place must be pretty haunted, right? Let's just say, if you're driving past on a moonlit night and you see a figure of a lady in one of the windows, keep on driving. There are two known ghostly tenants of Bury Pomeroy. The first is the Blue Lady and the White Lady, both with their own tragic stories. According to locals, the Blue Lady is said to have been the daughter of a Norman lord who killed her child. Having convinced it with her father, apparently the Blue Lady appears in the window of the highest tower, beckoning to passers-by, luring them inside. Anyone foolish enough to go to the Blue Lady is said to fall to their death. The White Lady, often confused with the blue counterpart, haunts the dungeons of the castle after being imprisoned there via the spite of a jealous sister. Current situation: Bury Pomeroy Castle is now a Grade 2 listed building, an English heritage site owned by the Duke of Somerset. It is possible to visit Bury Pomeroy Castle and also to rent it out for weddings, gatherings and photo shoots. Number 5 is Plasmoy Moor, Conwy, Wales. Plasmoy Moor in Conwy, North Wales is the epitome of an Elizabethan townhouse. Plasmoor translates to Great Hall, which is fitting as the grandeur within the building is revered all over Wales. It was built in 1585 by a man named Robert Wynne, one of the members of the Welsh landed gentry, having cost him £800. That's the equivalent of 16,000 these days in wages. There's a whole sitcom's worth of ghosts presenting Plasmoor. Over the years, staff working at the Cadwell Welsh Heritage Site have reportedly seen, among others, a little girl clad in a white bonnet who haunts the parlour room, a man and a boy in one of the bedrooms of the house, Dr. Dick, a young doctor who, having failed to revive Robert Wynne's wife and son, fled into darkness of the chimney system to escape, and most strangely, mysterious mummified cats found under the floorboards during a routine restoration. Current situation: Plasmoor is well-loved tourist attraction, open to the public all year round. Having been meticulously preserved, a visit to Plasmoor is like stepping back in time. Number 6 on our list is Blickling Hall, Norfolk. The enormous Norfolk estate was home to the Boleyn family and haunted by a prominent paternal member. We'll get to that later. Blickling Hall stately home, part of the infamous Blickling estate, has lorded over the surrounding fields since the 15th century. When it was built by Sir John Fastolf of Caister, who managed to accrue a fortune during the 100 Years of War, 500 years later, during World War II, it was requisitioned by the RAF, used as an officers' mess and training ground for soldiers. Having lost his two daughters to the rapacious requirements of King Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn's father, Sir Thomas Boleyn, wanders the estate grounds at dawn, attempting to cross each of the grounds before the cockerel cries. There's also the equally most famous ghost of Sir John Falstaff, who served as the historical inspiration for Shakespeare's famous tragic comic character Falstaff. Current situation. Blickering Hall now serves as a Grade 2 listed National Trust. Its gigantic library, its garden, and its 500 acres of woodland provide visitors from all over. So first there's the deadly spooky stockroom that the staff have been complaining about for years. According to various reports, there's a tangibly menacing and uncomfortable mood when there at all times. Stock will fall off shelves without obvious reason, and a mysterious man in green appears before disappearing without a trace. There's the Blue Kitchen, where a shaken staff member reported the appearance of a disembodied foot in front of him. Current situation. Little remains to this today of the original design of the house, other than the 13th century gate and a vast collection of leather tapestries showing scenes from Antony and Cleopatra. Dunster Castle also houses a piano, once owned by a famous composer, Vivian Ellis. Number 8 is Spring Hill House, Northern Ireland. Spring Hill House is a 17th century listed building. The townland of Ballindrum near Moneymore, Northern Ireland, though it has remained property of the National Trust since the 1950s, Spring Hill House has been in the possession of the Cunningham family for hundreds of years. There are many heirs of the family, and the masters of the household have fought in a number of different wars before the house eventually began to decline during the early 20th century. Olivia Lennox Cunningham was the bearer of a sad story. Her husband, George Lennox Cunningham, killed himself, and Olivia had to bring up the children all by herself. Tormented by the fact that she could never save her beloved husband from his demons. As far as ghosts go, however, Olivia is a fairly benign. She only appears by day and shows genuine concern for children, who she prefers to appear to. Current situation. Spring Hill is considered a vitally important bit of Ulster history, having preserved the legacy of the Cunningham family's 300-year residence. The estate is open to the public most days and boasts one of the largest surviving 18th century wallpaper schemes in the United Kingdom. Number 9 is Ham House, Richmond upon Thames. Ham House in Richmond, on the outskirts of the British capital, was built during the 17th century and was home to James I, Prince of Wales, and since his death has been handed down through a long line of earls and duchesses until it eventually fell into the public hands. The estate suffered damage during the Blitz bomber campaigns of the Second World War, as an important aircraft factory was located nearby. Remember how I said that Ham House was handed down through a long line of duchesses? Well, one of them's still here. Elizabeth Murray, Duchess of Lauderdale, to the precise Elizabeth, was a ruthless Machiavellian character who allied herself with both Charles II and Oliver Cromwell during the English Civil War, allegedly poisoned one of her husbands on her way up the social ladder, and consistently took family members to court for crossing her. In the end, it all caught up with Elizabeth, and having come up upon financial problems, she confined herself in a single ground floor apartment until her death. Current situation. Whilst being open to the public for tours and nocturnal ghost hunting sessions, Ham House is also used in film and television, used as Kensington Palace in the 2009 film The Young Victoria, and as Hailsham Boarding School in Never Let Me Go. Number 10 is Treasurer's House, York. Though one of the walls is all that remains of the original construction, Treasurer's House, just north of York's Minster, was first established way back in the 1090s for the minister's first treasurer. It survived mostly untouched until the Reformation, when the position of treasurer to the minister was brought to the end. In 1897, a wealthy industrialist took it upon himself to restore the house, a project that was finished in 1900. There's also a number of ancient Roman ruins uncovered in and around the house. Turns out, columns and roads aren't the only Roman remnants of the treasurer's house. It also plays host to the spirits of a small group of Roman soldiers. According to the account, those who witness the soldiers are first greeted with a slow crescending chorus of trumpet blasts, before a group of soldiers led by an officer in a plumed hat and riding a cart horse emerge from one of the walls. Current situation: Treasurer's House is open to the public. People come from all over Yorkshire to look at the house's garden and Frank Green, wealthy industrialist's collection of objects brought from around the world. Number 11 is Aston Hall in Birmingham. The Birmingham Mansion is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in all of England. The property was built during the Jacobean period, and after being bought by the Birmingham Corporation, was the first historic country house to fall into municipal ownership. Like many of the buildings on the list, Aston Hall was badly damaged during the English Civil War, but was subsequently renovated before being sold off to the industrial pioneer James Watt, one of the key developers of the steam power. Back in the 17th century, the property was inhabited by a particularly ruthless landowner and his daughter. When the daughter tried to run away with one of the servants, the father imprisoned her in the property for 16 years, and the servant, therefore bereft of his love, killed himself. The daughter, according to the sightings, still remains inside Aston Hall to this day, and is known as the Grey Lady. Current situation: Aston Hall belongs to the Birmingham Museums Trust and is open to the public during the summer months. The hall sits just adjacent to the Aston Villa Football Club's famous ground, Villa Park. Number 12, Theatre Royal, London. The Theatre Royal in London's Drury Lane could for a time claim to be London's leading theatre thanks to its status and patent theatre during the 17th century. Famous actors of the era, such as Nell Gwyn and Charles Hart, performed at the West End institution on a regular basis. The Royal Theatre also rose to prominence after the Second World War, pioneering various classic musicals such as Oklahoma, My Fair Lady, and Miss Saigon. It's now owned by a famous composer, Andrew Lloyd Webber. Adhering to the grand old tradition of haunted theatres, the Royal has its own crop of ghosts and apparitions. These ghosts are welcomed by superstitious actors and staff as a harbinger of good luck for the up-and-coming performances. The most famous ghost is the Man in Grey, who appears in full 18th century pomp, complete with powdered wig, riding a hat and sword. Apparently the Man in Grey was stabbed before being walled up in a side passage next to the royal box where his remains were uncovered. Current situation: the Theatre Royal is still a fully functioning and operational theatre at the heart of London's West End. Its status as a haunted theatre has attracted the television's attention, and it appeared on a recent episode of Most Haunted. Number 13. Glencoe National Nature Reserve, Scotland. This nature reserve in the Scottish Highlands, cared for by the Scottish National Trust, is like much of the Scottish Highlands, ruggedly beautiful. It plays host to a myriad of bird species, is frequented by hikers from all over the country, and revered for its startling waterfalls and cliffs. However, if you know the history of it, not somewhere you want to be lost in the dark on a stormy night. Glencoe was home to a particularly dark bit of Scottish history. The infamous Glencoe massacre of 1692. A troop of soldiers acting on government orders got themselves invited to the residence of the Clan MacDonald. Posing as friendly visitors during the night, with their hosts drunkenly asleep, the soldiers went about slitting their throats. According to the legend, some members of the MacDonald clan survived and fled into the surrounding woodland, where they remain to this day. Current situation: not only is Glencoe held as one of the most picturesque hiking destinations in the Scottish Highlands, but it also readily utilised by various movie studios, used as the location for the Bridge of Death and the George of Eternal Peril filming Monty Python and the Holy Grail, as well as sets for Harry Potter and James Bond flick Skyfall. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of history. If you did, please don't forget, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit the notifications button so you can see when I've done another video. As always, I am Sir Shudder. Until next time, be safe, be cool.